Welcome to Wisdom Trek with Gramps. I am Guthrie Chamberlain, and we are on day 2728 of our trek. The purpose of Wisdom Trek is to create a legacy of wisdom, to seek out discernment and insights, and to boldly grow where few have chosen to grow before. The title for today's Wisdom Trek is The Eternal Refuge in the Fleeting Shadow of Man, a trek through Psalm 90, verses 1 through 9. Today, we embark on a profound, philosophical, and deeply spiritual journey as we open Psalm 90, covering its opening verses 1 through 9 in the New Living Translation. This psalm carries a rare and significant superscription, a prayer of Moses, the man of God. Written by the great lawgiver himself, this psalm is widely regarded as the oldest in the Psalter, born from the crucible of the 40 years of wandering in the wilderness. It is a sober meditation on the frailty of human life and the eternity of God, composed during a time when an entire generation was dying off due to their rebellion against the divine decree. We transition here from the anguished question of the Davidic covenant's failure in Psalm 89, where the psalmist wrestled with God's apparent abandonment, to a foundational truth. Man's mortality is not a failure of God's promise, but an unchangeable reality of human existence after the fall. Moses reminds us that before we can grasp God's promises, we must first confront our own fleeting nature. This psalm is essential wisdom for our trek. It sets the proper scale and context for our brief time on earth. Let us open our hearts to this ancient prayer, acknowledging the immense chasm between the eternal God and the fleeting life of humanity. The first section is the eternal God, our dwelling place. Psalm 90, verses 1 through 2. Lord, through all the generations, you have been our home. Before the mountains were born, before you gave birth to the earth and the world, from everlasting to everlasting, you are God. Moses begins his prayer not by complaining about the hardship of the wilderness, but by affirming God's eternal nature and his relationship to humanity. Lord, through all the generations, you have been our home. The word home, my own, means dwelling place, refuge, or habitation. Moses is looking back over the entire history of the covenant people from Abraham to the present wilderness generation and declaring that God, not a physical tent or a specific land, has been their constant, reliable dwelling place. This concept provides profound security. In a transient world, subject to change and decay, God is the one permanent, unshakable refuge for his people. Moses then paints a cosmic picture of God's existence, contrasting it sharply with the finite nature of creation. Before the mountains were born, before you gave birth to the earth and the world, from everlasting to everlasting, you are God. God's existence precedes all created things, even the most ancient symbols of stability, like the mountains. The phrase from everlasting to everlasting min olam ad, olam encompasses all time, transcending our human concepts of beginning and end. This is the eternal, uncreated God who stands outside of time, the ultimate sovereign who rules the cosmos and sits as the unquestioned head of the divine council. He is the self-existent one, utterly unlike the mortals who inhabit his creation. Moses establishes this truth first, making clear the vast chasm between the Creator and the created before turning to the frailty of man. The second section is the fleeting reality of mortal man. Psalm 90. Verses 3 through 6. You turn people back to dust, saying, "Return to the dust, you mortals." For you, 1,000 years are as yesterday when it is past. They are but a few hours in the night. You sweep people away like dreams that disappear. They are like grass that springs up in the morning. In the morning, it flourishes and is beautiful, but by evening, it is wilted and dry. Now Moses directly addresses the condition of humanity, a condition established by the divine decree after the fall. Genesis 3:19. You turn people back to dust, saying, "Return to the dust, you mortals." Moses is writing during the 40 years of wandering, a time when a whole generation died in the wilderness, a direct, ongoing fulfillment of God's judgment against their unbelief. He confirms that the power of death is not random or natural. It is a sovereign decree issued by God. God simply speaks the word, "Return to the dust," and the ephemeral nature of humanity is revealed. To emphasize this transience, Moses contrasts human time with divine time. For you, 1,000 years are as yesterday when it is past. They are but a few hours in the night. For the eternal God, even the longest stretch of human history, 1,000 years, is nothing more than a day that is already past, or a few brief hours of a watch during the night. This cosmic disparity underscores the insignificance of human time when measured against God's eternity. Moses uses two vivid images to describe the brevity of human existence. You sweep people away like dreams that disappear. A dream, however vivid, vanishes instantly upon waking. Human life is just as transient, here one moment and gone the next, swept away by God's sovereign breath. The second image is even more tangible and common in the dry climate of the Near East. They are like grass that springs up in the morning. In the morning, it flourishes and is beautiful, but by evening, it is wilted and dry. This agricultural metaphor beautifully illustrates the fragility of humans. The grass is fresh, vibrant, and beautiful in the cool morning dew, yet by the intense heat of evening, it is already scorched, withered, and dry. Our entire lifespan, with all its vibrancy and activity, is merely the space between a single sunrise and sunset in God's eternal perspective. The third section is the consequence of divine anger. Psalm 90, verses 7 through 9. We are consumed by your anger and terrified by your rage. You have set our sins before you, our secret sins in the light of your presence. All our days disappear in your wrath. We spend our years with a sigh. Moses now turns from the general frailty of man to the specific consequence of sin in the life of the covenant community, the reason for the suffering they faced in the wilderness. We are consumed by your anger and terrified by your rage. The frailty of human life is compounded by the righteous anger of God. The judgment they faced in the desert, the deaths, the hardship, the constant conflict, is explicitly attributed to God's burning anger and rage against their rebellion, a theme explored extensively in Psalm 78. They are consumed, suggesting total exhaustion and utter depletion by the consequences of divine wrath. The psalmist acknowledges the perfect justice of this judgment, confessing God's omniscience regarding their guilt. You have set our sins before you, our secret sins in the light of your presence. God's judgment is not arbitrary. It is based on perfect knowledge. He has judged their outward sins as well as their secret sins, the hidden motivations, the inner lack of trust, the unseen rebellions of the heart. These secret sins are exposed, brought into the full light of your presence, where nothing can be hidden. The consequence of this confrontation with God's holiness is a life defined by regret and brevity. All our days disappear in your wrath. We spend our years with a sigh. Instead of the long, blessed life promised to the obedient, their years are marked by God's discipline, causing their days to disappear rapidly. Their existence is characterized by a sigh, hega, a groan, a lament, a deep sound of frustration and weariness. The 40 years of the wilderness generation, meant to be a period of triumphant pilgrimage, was instead spent under the cloud of God's wrath, a protracted funeral procession marked by sighing and death. Psalm 90, verses 1 through 9 is a foundational meditation that juxtaposes God's eternity with man's transience, and attributes the brevity and sorrow of human life not just to mortality, but to the righteous consequence of sin. It sets the stage for Moses to pray, in the verses that follow, for God to temper his anger and teach his people how to truly number their days. Wisdom on the Trek, setting our scale. The wisdom of Psalm 90 for our trek lies in setting our scale. 1. Our ultimate refuge is eternal. We must recognize that the one true God, the eternal sovereign who predates the mountains and judges the divine council, is our only reliable home and refuge. All earthly stability is fleeting. Only God is permanent. 2. Our time is a shadow. We must confront the truth of our mortality. Our life is a dream and grass that withers quickly. This reality should not lead to despair, but to urgency. It should compel us to maximize the limited time we have to glorify God. 3. No secret sins remain secret. We are reminded that God's judgment is perfect because his light exposes even our secret sins. We must live with transparency and integrity, knowing that every hidden thought is visible in the light of his presence. Let us, like Moses, acknowledge the brevity of our days and the holiness of our God, so that we may pray for the wisdom necessary to redeem the time. If you found this podcast insightful, please subscribe and leave us a review. Then encourage your friends and family to join us and come along tomorrow for another day of Wisdom Trek, Creating a Legacy. Thank you so much for allowing me to be your guide, mentor, and, most importantly, I am your friend as I serve you through this Wisdom Trek podcast and journal. As we take this trek of life together, let us always live abundantly, love unconditionally, listen intentionally, learn continuously, lend to others generously, lead with integrity, Leave a living legacy each day. I am Guthrie Chamberlain, reminding you to keep moving forward, enjoy your journey, and create a great day every day. See you next time for more daily wisdom.